So why am I a conservative black man in America? Well, about me, coming right up. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Common Sense Logical Reason. And as always, I want to say thank y'all for joining me today. So a lot of people, amazing how many people are shocked when they find out that I'm a conservative person. Because typically black people are, we vote for Democrats. Well, most blacks are conservative, but we vote for Democrats. And I, like most black people in America, I was also raised to do so. I was born and raised with that, Democrat good, Republican bad mentality. And I first started voting for Democrats until I was actually woken with the truth. And I remember one time I went to vote in a primary. This was a presidential primary. And I, without even asking, there was white females at the booth where you have to sign up. Because here in Louisiana, we have voter ID. You have to sign 2 books in order to vote. Well, one of the white females, without even thinking about it, was handing me the Democratic, the primary voting, the Democratic primary ballot. And I'm like, well, I wanted the Republican ballot. And she was kind of shocked. Well, I wouldn't say just taken aback, but you can see the look on her face. She was kind of shocked. And I can imagine there are many of black conservatives out there, and we probably all have our own different journey. But I'm going to talk about my journey to consider myself conservative. Now, as I always say, that I've always been conservative. The problem is that I just didn't know it. But my journey started when I started working for a parking garage. And this was back in 2002. It was a second job. It was an overnight job. And this was a very, very laid back job. What I did most of the time was done within the first 30 minutes of the work. And after that, it was just on cruise control. For the most, unless there was some specific event going on, it was pretty much a very easy job. And I would do various things, listen to music. Back then, I believe this was a Game Boy Advance was out. I would sometimes bring a Game Boy Advance and listen to the radio. Well, around this time, roughly about 2003-ish or so, we know that the second Gulf War started, and I was searching through the radio for channels, and I found this radio station, and they were giving 24-hour coverage of the war. And I started listening after I found the station, and this was our local conservative station, but they were giving 24-hour coverage of the war, and I would listen the whole night. And even when I got off, I would listen to keep up what was going on. Well, after the war died down, they basically went back to their regular programming. This was a rebroadcast of a lot of the conservative radio shows that they would broadcast during the day, such as Rush Limbaugh. And I would listen, and I kept listening to these people, and they would give these just straight logical breakdown of conservatism and why conservatism makes sense. And I listened to these shows, and I kept listening. They kept resonating with me, being that I'm a very logical person. And I would hear them give these points on top of points on top of points on top of facts that just made sense. Perfect example is one of the things that I was raised in is that we need to ban guns because we don't need guns. And yeah, sure, we have the right to own guns in the Constitution, but back then, the reason why that was put in the Constitution because people had to fish and hunt to survive. It's not like today's society where you can just go to the store and buy some stuff off the shelf and go home and make a meal in 30 minutes or so. Back then, you wanted to eat something, you had to go out and kill it. So we were told that gun ownership was only necessary for hunting and fishing, and that's the only reason why it was put in the Constitution. Whereas it turns out, the Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting and fishing. The whole purpose of the Second Amendment was to deal with all enemies, whether it be foreign or domestic, and mostly tyranny from government. Another point that I've heard listening to those conservative shows, and it was basically about taxes. I also always heard that, the story of the evil, greedy, rich people not paying a fair share. We need to tax the rich to pay for the poor people. And taxes one, when you understand economics 101, you know that when you raise taxes, you're going to hurt the economy. And when you lower taxes, you're going to help the economy. And in both those cases, generally, the poorest of the people are the ones who will either help the most or hurt the most by tax cuts. You know, whenever, I always say that the economy is driven by businesses. Businesses are the engine that drives the economy, and money is the fuel that the engine runs on. So the more money or the more fuel you put you give that engine, the further it can drive. You can drive your car a lot further on a full tank than you can on a half a tank. When you put money in the hands of corporations, they get to keep more of their hard-earned money. Well, they take that money, reinvest back into the business in a lot of things that they could have needed, such as, let's say, the most expensive labor cost for any business is labor. So if they get a tax cut, a nice tax cut, that means that now they can afford to hire a couple extra people that they perhaps needed. Well, now you have more people who are working. Another person that's working, another person that's paying income taxes, another person who's earning more money, so they'll go out and more likely to go out and spend, which would be buying things, buying goods, which means they're paying sales taxes and they're help stimulating the economy. Or let's say that a company give their people a bonus or raises. You give somebody a raise, they're making more money now, so they're more likely to go out and say eat maybe twice a week now. Instead of once a week, they can go out to eat twice a week now. And who benefits? Well, the restaurants benefit because they have more business, which means they may have to hire more people. And as far as labor goes, it just has a domino effect throughout the economy. That means they got to buy more items from vendors who supply them, which means the vendors now benefit. And like I say, it's a domino effect all throughout the economy. And the net result of cutting taxes is that the federal government actually gets more tax revenue back. So if the government gets more tax revenue back when they lower taxes than they do when they raise taxes, then why are the Democrats always wanting to raise taxes? Again, doesn't make any sense. And after listening to common sense like that over and over again, after about a month or so, I no longer consider myself a Democrat. I consider myself a conservative, and today I'm more of an independent, but I'm still very conservative and leaning, and I still support the Republican Party only because, well, it's better than it's more closer to my views than the Democratic Party, way more closer to my views than the Democrat. Anyway, so that's my journey, how I became a conservative, how I went from being a leftist person, black person, typical black person, voting for Democrats, to being a conservative person. Basically, it was as Thomas Sowell put it, what changed me? Facts. I could argue with it. So that's my journey, and I'm pretty sure that plenty of other blacks out there have the same journey. You can't argue with facts unless you're being emotional. But anyway, y'all, that's about me. And as always, until next time.